shut down there. So basically, I'd get little power fluctuations when I'm trying to do. I have like a working desk, and I've run cables, and sometimes the power acts weird. So I do apologize. So for those of you joining that have not watched this stream previously, basically how I have this set up is in the top left are the extracted files from the game itself. Bottom left is the mod itself. Over to the right is always going to be my dump folders. So let's go ahead and pull up my dump folders here. And that's going to include the pH source. So let's go ahead and open that up. So as we're making changes and adjustments, and then also I'm using Git to back up everything. And so let's go ahead and get everything powered up. So I think I'm a little bit past this config and skills one. Let's actually go ahead and create a new branch here because everything's getting dumped into there. So let's say human AI update, and we'll go ahead and create that. Push that out. And let's start from here. So essentially what I'm going to be working on, let me first also post on the Discord. I didn't actually get a chance to say that I'm live on the Discord. If you guys are not part of the Discord community, I would highly recommend jumping on the Discord. We have quite a large group on there. I don't know if we've surpassed 800 users yet, but the idea is that if you need immediate feedback or help, I'm usually on there talking with everyone. And then additionally, if you want to jump on and continue to work on your own mods, if you want feedback, if you're trying to get more of the community active, it's a great place to go to find out more about what's going on with Dying Light and kind of the status of some of the ongoing mods. We have actually a few different modders who actually are working on mods on there as well, and so it's just kind of a good place to stop in and see what's going on with the community. Let me go ahead and do post here. And I'm going to quickly join. It looks like Effort Fighter on the Discord community wants to reach out and ask a question on the voice chat. So I'm going to go ahead and add that on here and try to answer any of the questions he may have here. But essentially what I'm working on, or what I was working on before that little power spike, was they added, it didn't lose my work, did it? No, here it is. So basically the idea here is that with the AI code, they wrote in this simple code that has the player always show up as the last target. And so no matter who they see inside the world, they're always able to see that last target as the player. Hey, Effort Fighter, how's it going today?
Reason I asked you is because it's been a while since you actually joined your ongoing guild, like DC when you were streaming.
Yeah, I've mainly done that, and I'm probably gonna try to do that again today. Here, I'm messing up the whole screen doing push to talk. I'm gonna probably continue to do that just because for what I'm working on right now, it requires a lot of focus to not introduce new bugs. And so every time I've jumped on and we have more and more people discussing and talking, asking questions, it really doesn't allow me to focus in on the syntax and all that stuff. And so what will happen is I'll do a 4 or 5 hour stream talking to people, and then I'll release an update and it'll break something, and then I got to go back and it's another hour, 2 hours to fix whatever I caused while I was talking. And so it's mainly just so I can continue to get these rapid updates out.
That makes sense. All right, I'll leave you to it then.
No, it's nothing against you guys. I love jumping on and talking to you guys. It's just also one of those things where depending on how long my bug list is, I can't, it's splitting that time. It'll just take a lot longer to fix the issues. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so what I'm going to do right now, so what I'm doing right now is actually going through a bug fix and trying to help. So more and more people are reporting that the human AI are doing this weird bug where they're running up to the player and not attacking. So I'm trying to track down that bug first, and I think really that's the last large bug, and then I'm going to try to switch over to some ongoing dev. And so when I get back to the ongoing dev section, I'll jump on the dev talk, and so that way it'll be a little bit easier to kind of split my attention. But I'm not sure how long it's going to take to weed out this renegade bug.
That makes sense.
Cool, but happy to talk with you guys. Looking forward to talking here soon.
Yes. But the last thing I want to ask before you head out though is, did you ever think of having the humans switch to the renegade AI when they're targeting like the player?
What do you mean?
So you're saying you're having trouble with humans, attacking the players, right? Well, they'll run up to them and then not attack them if they're supposed to be aggressive towards it, right?
Right.
So making the humans switch to the renegade AI where they know to attack the player when they are supposed to be aggressive towards the player.
Oh, well, sure. So currently the base game has a single AI tree for the entire human AI, and they actually all start as bandits. So everybody inside the game kind of spawns in as a bandit, and then they have modifiers to that code, which basically say I'm a friend of the player, I'm not a friend of the player. And I've gone in and I've basically changed that to where I think there's now 9 different AI behaviors based on the different factions, and so the bug that's happening, I'm not sure what the bug is or why it's happening yet because I haven't been able to reproduce it on my side, but more than likely it's where I've written my own branching path for the renegades in particular because I'm actually going to take it much further than that and have every single faction have their own priorities and their own strengths and weaknesses, have their own inventories, have their own everything. And that's really kind of what I'm heading towards and what I've been able to establish a lot of that in the game so far, especially amongst the like survivors versus the PK. But it appears that there's just a glitch in there, and for the renegades in particular, and so I'm trying to figure out what that is.
Like you got a lot of work ahead.
Well, that's the thing is if I don't talk about it too much and I just do it, I'll have it all wired back up here in the next 30 minutes to an hour, hopefully. Again, it's just kind of keeping a head down to focus on the issue and make sure I'm wiring up everything correctly because it's a lot of moving pieces when it comes to the AI. If you make one wrong mistake, you really won't know it's in there, and you'll just get random behaviors that someone later is like, hey, they're doing this, and like a month from now, I'll be like, oh shit, hang on, let me go check on something. And it's like, oh yeah, yeah, I did that. So
Trust me, I stick code, right now you make one mistake, it's all you know.
Well, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, just because it's the weekend and a little extra hours kind of thing, trying to make that time work as in my favor as possible. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Hey, Born Confused, thanks for joining on the YouTube. All right, I'm gonna
yeah,
switch back over to the YouTube channel just for now, so I can get started on this one bug, and then, like I said, once I switch over to actual new feature development, I'll jump on the dev channel. Cool, Ever. It was good talking with you. Talk to you later.
yeah.
All right, guys, for those of you viewing on the YouTube channel, thank you guys so much for joining. What we're working on right now is that there is a there's a human bug right now that's happening that people are reporting that I haven't been able to see myself. I thought I fixed it yesterday, but it sounds like it's still persisting, maybe specific to quests. I need to go back and actually replay the beginning prologue to figure out what's going on with the renegades, where they're not attacking the player at the start. And more than likely, whatever bug is in there, if I fix it for that, it will fix it for the prologue. I did review the prologue characters the other day, and they are set up to where they have their own specific set of information, and none of that's been modified. So they should always work unless a new bug is introduced. While I'm doing that, because it takes so long to go in here and trial and error some of these things when it comes to the open world, when I'm spawning these guys in, they're working just fine. So because it's not being caused by the actual spawn, or it's not being caused by the root code, my guess is that there's a modifier being applied based on a specific event, whether or not it be like where they've captured a PK, and it's a scenario versus open world code. And so continue to test. But one of the things I want to talk about, one of them looking at first, before diving into just running around the open world, is that there's this issue where now that the human AI has been brought online to where they're actually looking around the world, essentially the difference is that they were basically not looking around the world before. They were they were just kind of standing there until scripts basically activated their ability to look around, and they were looking around, but they weren't really like actually like engaged with the world. That's been turned on, so now they are very much engaged with the world. The problem that is now becoming more of an issue is the fact that they are always looking for the player. And that's because in the code, and that's to get back to what I'm looking at here, the code has been set up to where the last target is a slot that has always been reserved for the player. And so even if they're not seeing something else in the world, say they've run out of zombies to look at or whatever it is, they're always looking for that player. And in some cases, maybe that's good, and that's one of those challenges of like, well, if I change this, is that going to mess up a quest? Is that going to mess up something very specific that they need to be looking for the player? And so it's one of those things that I have not removed previously. But for example, you can see here in this common update, they are always looking for what they call the last target, which is actually the player. And what we want to do is go in here and actually say only pay attention to their target, and then we want to rewrite some of the code to where the player poses a credible threat. And what I want to try to look into is, can the player provide more of a threat based on armor, based on level? Like, can you actually scale up their level of like, oh god, based on the fact of what they're wearing? Because that like that's how I would do it. If I was out in the open world and I saw some guy running up in rags, I'd be like, whatever. I have bigger problems right now. But if I saw somebody walking up with full armor, with a crossbow, with all these other things, I'd be like, hang on, I need to deal with this guy. And so that's what I'm going to try to look into a little bit more, to say like, okay, can we make these guys a little bit more intelligent to where they're paying attention to, the actual attributes of the player versus just it's a player. Because that whole it's a player thing doesn't work very well. As people have pointed out, every time they throw a weapon or whatever, they're throwing it at the player always. They're not throwing it at the target, they're throwing it at the last target. So what we're going to do is, now they've actually been brought online, they're now looking for target. We're going to go through and actually try to eliminate some of the last target code and just see how that plays out. Maybe that won't work, but I'm hopeful. I've already written a lot of things into the code to where they should actually behave more in that manner, but they weren't always looking for the target before. Now that they're online, essentially, now they're always looking for that target, and so they're gonna actually use a lot of the code that's already been established. So as I was just talking with last effort, thank you again for your feedback. Last effort, I appreciate it. I want to keep the community active. I want to be able to continue to hear what your guys' feedback is, but I also, it's a lot of things that I'm crawling through because of the size of this mod at this point. And so here are the different root behaviors, and it looks like I was right. It's 9, including the basic ones. Altogether, we now have 8 different behavior trees for each one of the factions. And what we're going to do here is go in and say, specific to combat update common, we want to try to understand, like, okay, how can we go in here and maybe we want to come back to this later. Maybe we want to say certain factions are like the bandits are always looking for the player because they want to mug somebody. They're always looking for that one player. But then other groups like the renegades and stuff like that, they keep an eye on the target, but they're not always like heavily targeting the player because they're more concerned about what's happening around them. So as we go through, we want to continue to try to understand how the code was originally meant to work so that we're not undoing something that could actually be used to make it even more interesting. So let's go ahead and go back here. We're looking for human combat update common, which I already have modified. and we can go in here and just basically say remove last target. And then let's go back here and see where else last target shows up. So every time they do human search, that's fine because that's going through and being called every now and then. That's just fine that if they want to go investigate the player, they can. Here's more of my code. Human retreat uses that information. Go to last position uses that information. And then this last one is human track, which that's what we need to determine. I think it's the combat that we actually want to start with because the combat is going to use what am I doing, what am I engaging with versus everything else here. Even if it's taking account for the player, that doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad thing. Um, because even with this last target, what we can do here is actually let's go to human, let's go to base and say, what is this? Investigate point of interest. Maybe even for this one. So it always comes down to like where is it falling in the logic as well. This one actually falls pretty down, pretty low in the list here. Um, I think what I'll do is say radius, position, noise event. I think I'm going to also remove it from here as well, just so that way they say group target. Because if they are establishing a target at all times and the player is able to be considered a target, and then a group of enemies is able to see the player and establish that that group of enemies is interested in the target, then they shouldn't really have to focus on the target itself. They should really only be focused, or not the on the player itself, they should be focused on what is the group's highest concern in that moment, and that will allow them to have a little bit more natural behavior here. And then also for something like throw knife, I want to go in here and say all of these should say target. Yeah, so all this other code is set up to where it is properly looking at the target. The difference is are they always looking over to the player or are they able to focus on other things? And so I think as long as we go in here to this code and update it to where they are able to focus on the other things inside the world outside of just the player, they should be able to also then attack the player and realistically go after the player. It's just what is the priority of going after the player? Hey, Born Confused. All right, thanks for joining, and I look forward to talking to you on the Discord. Thanks for dropping in. And then also one of the members on the community dropped me some save games, so I'm going to go ahead and pull those up actually as well. So these are all the backups. I think I can actually use these though. I'm sure this is actually going to work. Let's create a new folder. As you guys can see, I've ended up with quite a few different saves here. Um, that's the save backup and then the actual save. And open that. And there's that bug again with Dying Light. Doesn't always want to launch for me for some reason. All right, so we've got the save back. I should be able to go in here and just kill the backup part of that. And then also I think the scanned part of that, I think it has to look like that. And then we're going to go to my Steam location here. So let's say Steam. And please ignore most of the visual glitching that's happening on the actual game. So I've been working on the reshade. That's taking, all due process. It's taken a little bit longer to go through and create that custom reshade, and so I am planning on releasing that here as well as an optional for people that would like to use a reshade in your gameplay, but that's still under development. So I don't think I can do this while this is going. So let's go ahead and just over. Go in here and just kind of see what my players got. All right, so I think the first spot for bandits is usually right up here around the corner. Yeah, we got some bandits up top, and I am going to have to probably rebalance some of these things so that they're able to. Looks good so far. I'm getting the indicators, but that may not mean no. They definitely see me, which is interesting because they have all these other targets right there next to them. So that last target thing is still happening. There must be a priority still on the player. So instead of searching by last target, I'm going to switch back over and start looking based on the other code as well. Let's see if they have some code in there that's specifically saying where's the player. And then up. All right, well there's the bug. So sweet. I can actually use these guys as a good use case. All right. So if these guys have got it, they're actually, I switched them over yesterday to where they're using the behavior tree from the bandit or from the renegades as well. So let's actually just start there. So going back over, so first let's switch over to, and I think I'm going to actually keep my save game for now just because we now have a good testable area here to go through and crawl through and find out what's going on. I can no longer delete anything out of the mod, sadly, to quickly find out what's going on with the code, just because everything is now, there's so much custom content that's required. And so because of that, um, it's all referencing that custom code now. So more than likely, the other one was if there is no threat, track the player or neutral allies. And so let's see. Let's go in here and say also what is the context. It may have to be up in this one. Say find tracked ally. Let's find out where it's receiving that. So the update ally, tracked ally, find ally to tracked ally. Okay, so it's just receiving it through an actual method there. So then the generic codes, the move, interact. So they're also looking at the player there. So if we go in here and say human track and we say remove that as well, let's see if that helps with some of that. Oops. All right. So got to keep my tabs in order. I don't know if you guys are using the new version of Windows, but pros and cons, it's okay. Um, but having that tab system can come in handy sometimes. So track is going to be under base. So when you go back, base, human track. And let's go ahead and say last target here as well. So this way they're going to look for their target and then they're going to look for their tracked allies. So this should also help with some of that. Let me see if it has no other player references here. So let's go ahead and assume these three removing last target will still be helpful. And then lastly, let's say, I think under find results, we said player. So they're using my reinforcements. And then also this is based on the code that I'm using, not the base game code. So I may have to also switch over to look at, I was first trying to see if there was any code that I had specific. Let's see, priority for decoy through grenade their knife. Reaction block. Retreat from player. Generic track player. Move away from player. That'll interact. Is player the tracked ally? This is how they're actually coming and actually joining the player and reinforcing the player in the world. And I think for the most part, let's dial this in slowly. So let's do these three, and then let's try to figure out what's happening with the human AI as far as the bandits and the renegades go. So if we go down to presets, logic, human AI, and we open up this, which should already be, I have a couple of save slots that I'm always using now here in the front. So we have pretty much all of our AI just kind of sitting here waiting to go. But I think I'm gonna grab open world and move that over. Oh, must have closed him by accident. No, there he is. Yeah, I just missed him at the start. Okay, so basically the renegades are using the generics, and then they're also using this main behavior tree. So my guess is because I updated the bandits to also use the same one. My guess is that something has happened to my renegade behavior tree, to where my renegade behavior tree is no longer working as expected. So let's go in here and see what is happening with their combat. So it's definitely going to be their combat section. So under combat, they have this human combat renegade is what I've been using, which under here, human combat renegade. My guess is that something has happened with the naming renegade and then human combat update. So they should be getting their update there. Renegade reinforcements. So the easiest thing that I've found to test this out to determine if something has gone awry is that we can just go in here to our human combat renegade and let's just switch that back to human combat and see if that fixes the problem. Because this is going to be the base. This is where everything starts up. And so if this fixes the problem, then we can go layer by layer down further and say like, okay, this is very specifically why it's messing up. Go ahead and clear that mod. Then let's go ahead and fire it back up and see if. So again, testing two things here. First is what is their priority system for the player and over prioritizing the player over everybody else. So I just tried to go into that optional war zone config where the world basically spawns lots and lots of humans in the city during the day. Some people have requested to have that back. I tried doing that again last night, and it was basically complete chaos because what would happen is that each one of these factions, it would spawn a different faction member. The faction member would see the player and identify the player as an enemy, and then a group that was normally your ally would consider that enemy to be neutral, and the group behavior would fire to where the group behavior was saying this is an enemy player, and their neutral ally or maybe their ally, and so I need to go through the code and see why it was happening, but essentially they would say, okay, hang on, because they see it as an enemy, now it's an enemy for us. And so like a bandit group would see the player, engage the player, the PK would then see the player, and then aggress the player because of some other group seeing the player. And so I have to go through and start to say line by line, but it's actually a great way to test now is to say, you know, can we spawn in every faction and those factions all behave appropriately? and so we'll see. Also, this new occasional, so this happens on occasion where the code will like bug out, and all of a sudden the zip lines will show up and other objects. I don't know if you guys noticed a second ago, but none of this stuff was actually here, and now we have zip lines and everything else. So if I go over here, sneak around this corner, we definitely have that guy right there. So I know he can see me. So they can see me. Uh, he can see me, but I don't know why he can see me this far away. I've also been very interested by these indicators. Nah, so they're still seeing the player. So then they communicate with them. Let's see if they'll come running over. They have no problem attacking the zombies though, which is interesting. Let's go over to them and just see. No. And so this is also something that has come up before with the virals. So I've seen this bug before with the virals, and I can never tell if it's a distance to player problem, where, for example, he can go in here and he can attack, but it's almost like they're not receiving the actual distance. Oh, okay. So we have, let me just see here. So we have, this is an open world bandit versus these are the base bandits and then the summoner. So potentially it is not everyone. It's just, again, there's like a specific group of them that's getting glitched for some reason. And if they had throwing weapons, although let me make sure they have weapons. They have weapons, so it's not that they don't have a weapon. If I hit them, so they're essentially using like a move to player logic to try to get to the proper distance to the player. And so he's working. Huh. Well, I do wish it was still at a point where I could just go in here and remove. Let's see if they do it. So if we go in here, we say hi. No. Oh, what's the push? He only hit me? I've ever heard him growl before. He doesn't look like he has a weapon. So he's just trying to push and keep him away, but he doesn't actually have a weapon. Or he was just trying to escape, and because he was trying to escape, he was getting glitched. But let's go find out what's going on here. So a lot of these guys are injured, so they've gone up on the rooftops here. So hopefully, we can actually just make sure there are loot trees and everything. Potentially, the loot system is causing that. I've also added shove as a standard now, so I'm still waiting to see who gets mad about the shove. But that's pretty much like the best way to combat zombies. And so the humans weren't doing that one before, but they now do that. Let's go over and check this other group.
Don't make me kick your ass.
He didn't have a weapon. There's an issue where they're not drawing their weapons. That's what it is. So I don't think he has a weapon at all, though. And so he is attacking, like he is using his attack, but the problem is that specifically he doesn't have a weapon. So maybe I've messed up some of the generic code. So the generic code is keeping them from. So if we go in here and say, and these guys just don't attack at all. Okay, he just pulled out his weapon. He tried to use escape. Hey, Tanvir, thanks for joining the stream. So that's what I was just saying a second ago on the stream. Actually, is that I'm working on bringing that back to the game. Let's see if they can attack each other. That's a really badly placed burn barrel. So the Warzone code is coming back. It's just right now where the human AI has changed so much, it's not quite ready for it. Could be slots. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's actually the attacked slots. I've seen that one before. Let's try that. So there's this one in here where they use this slot system, which I hate. But basically that determines how many can actually aggress or go up against the player. Potentially it's that. I don't understand why they're not receiving weapons though. Hey AJ, thanks for joining the stream. No, so for the loading times glitch, most of the time that's the engine specific code, and most of the time I try not to mess with their engine code, just because it's one of those things where if we're gonna go that far into it, then we're all the way into it, and so that one has not been done yet. So let's see, for weapons, some of these ended up with, like, for example, they have another script somewhere that is actually assigning the weapon. I think it's based on the difficulty script. So let's go in here to presets, logic, and I bet that's it. I bet that I've gone in here and let's say Renegade, the weapon sets. Maybe for some reason the weapon sets have changed, or not changed, but for some reason they're not getting their links here to their difficulty settings. So like, for example, one way to easily test this is to say that for the generics, for the like regular ones, because technically these should get handed off to, let's move this one back over. This one should get handed off once they spawn over to the difficulty code. So like, for example, I should be able to go in here to the, let's say, open world and assign them a generic weapon. And then when they actually spawn, they'll receive the weapon that has been upgraded. Also, I just noticed that there is a bug here. Why did I give them that yesterday? Well, that could do it. They had 2 custom loop strings. It's where I pasted a value yesterday. Good one, Jason. I'm saying. So if we go in here and give this, most of these guys are getting this association on load, and so let's go in here and say two-handed. Let's also give them a two-handed starter weapon as well. And then the same is true. So the bowmen, I've seen they were working last time I saw them. They have their own code. The fodder, bandits fodder, if we go over here to difficulty and we see fodders, they receive these basic weapon sets as well. So let's go in here and give them a generic as well. That. And then I think the knife throwers actually have their own, they would need to, so that they have their throwing knives. Weapon set. No, they're using this as well. So that must actually be firing to where they've added throwables there as well. Hey, Carson, thanks for joining. Hey, and I appreciate it. Thanks for the support. Yeah, I'm working on this right now. I actually just found a bug in the code that I left over from yesterday that potentially that was causing more of this issue. So let's find out here in a second. So I'm giving them weapons. The survivors also had that issue as well. So I'm guessing there's survivors over here. The survivors don't use this. They use weapon. Yeah, so where do they get their weapon sets? Potentially they're also using some of the code that I've modified now to where they're not getting their proper weapons either. Let's see. So let's give them. I think I actually created a pool for them way back. Let me go over here to scripts, inventory, weapon presets, and say, or actually, was it here? Say pool. No, that's not gonna work. Or I think it was actually just this is weapon pools, and so they were able to just pull from. Did I give them a survivor? Yeah, survivor random pool. So for the tier one, let's go in here and say that they just pull from that survivor random pool. And that should be most of them. The survivor bow, they should get, oof, see, little things like that where we get double values showing up in there. That's where I'm moving quick. I missed that if I was talking to you guys. And so again, I hate that I'm not live hearing your guys' feedback, but those are little things that if you don't see them, you don't see them. It's like literally you have to like sit here and go like, oh, there we go. There's another one. I just pasted that in though. So they are currently using Survivor Bow, which means that gives it over to the female version as well. So that one should be good. So that's quite a few changes here. Let's kind of take this a little bit slower and then go and test. So found two bugs so far with the human AI that could definitely do it. I don't think that it's this. I think that that can go away, just because that was working really well the other day. So let's see if it's one of these smaller things that's caused this issue. I'm looking forward to this. I just got the ping from the. I just got the notification from the Nexus that they're getting ready to shut down the site here in 9 hours. So I've got 9 hours to get my update out, or less than 9 hours to get that update. But then everybody's going to want to pull it. So They didn't say how long the site was going to be serviced, so I guess interesting detail. Let me see if it says on here how long the site's down for. Carrying out our critical maintenance. Somewhere between 12 to 24 hours. Interesting. So the mod will be down for most people for 12 to 24 hours. Um, and so potentially I'll do my updates to the Discord. So if you guys are watching and you want the latest updates and I continue to work on this while the site's down, you can either use the auto updater through the Patreon or you can use the updates that I provide in the Discord channel. But hopefully we'll get this one bug hot fixed and the majority of people will get that before the site goes down. Because I know with the human AI glitches, these tend to be a little bit more noticeable. If we can just get this out of the way, we can get back to all the other good stuff. And specifically, if it's the Renegades, that's like half the game. Half the game is bugged. I really do wonder if it was that value, though. They aren't going after the zombies first still. It's good. So they just try to kick. They're hitting. All good things. Kicking still. Yeah, higher here. Throwing. And I think before this next release, I think I'm going to actually go in and try to add back their ability to heal. Just because that was a big improvement. But yeah, there you go. They're fixed. At least for the most part. Let me go test some of the other ones. It was just literally where I added that. Is probably where I tried to. Oh wait. Okay, so specifically that's the summoner. Oh, so what's the difference between that guy? That would be like push logic. What's the difference between that guy and these guys?
Bullshit.
Let's go test some of the other AI. So here's our plague bearers. They are definitely one-shotting and attacking. Stink. So one is the summoner. I wonder if those are the dukes. I wonder if those are the freaking dukes. I bet those aren't even the bandit fodder. I bet those are the actual, what they call the dukes. And they're using the generic and the summoner, which would explain why they're getting messed up because they're not using the bandit code. So if we go in here to here, so we need their custom loot string, that. And that's been bugging me for a while. I actually don't know what the difference between the dukes and the bandit fodder is because they're using the same visual representations. I'm gonna just copy this whole thing and then move that up, and we're gonna go line by line here. Actually, instead of doing it like that, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the dukes and we're gonna point them at. We don't have to do that. We can go in here and say use the bandit fodder one-handed. I bet that is it because it's interesting that one group behaves like that but not the other. So if we say bandit, and then this group gets I'm assuming a custom weapon. So go over difficulty and say Duke, they get this. Where's the summoner? I still have to figure out how they're doing the handoff there. Ambush uses the one-handed summoner. So that should fix it. And then also for the plague bearer, I fixed this the other day to where that should be working correctly. What we're going to do here is actually just say Duke Summoner, and I'm going to also change this back to where he also has the, because I'm not sure what they were trying to do with that, but it doesn't really, it's definitely been glitched having that plague bearer around the world. So let's go find a renegade group and see if our renegades are fixed. I know the bowman kicked my ass yesterday.
What did I do to you? Let me go, please.
A scripted one. I think technically these are going to be dukes as well. I bet that's it.
Let me go.
I bet it's because they literally don't have logic attached to them anymore. Which would mean
Leave me alone.
that the generics have been modified. Okay. All right, that actually points me towards these up here, the generic bases. So it looks like there may be a bug with the generic bases, and these should not be modified. So let me go in here and say, let's see where it's using that. I know I set this up previously to where it was going to do like this. I think for them, they need to actually be. So there's now a split between the two, between the Grenader and the actual Renegade Grenader. And what that does is it allows us to not have them spitting fire like idiots. So previously, every single one would, spit flames and all that other nonsense. This allows them to actually um, only these guys specific do that nonsense. So let's say this can now that we have those added behaviors, this can now actually say random or generic Grenader, or let's just point them towards generic one hand actually. So it'll daisy chain down like that. And obviously we'll have to test again. But let's go over here back to the base files and confirm that these generics are still set up correctly, because if the generics got modified in some way that is causing this, then the easiest fix here is to just go and copy all of these generics. This. Save. And so when we go back over here, we should now see what that actually shows. So it's where we had the random Grenader, and then also one of them had a weapon group. I think, unless that's further down. That's what I added. But it could be potentially my config is actually messing up their generics. But that should now have everybody back to the set generic files. If we launch again, this will quickly determine whether or not our dukes are back online, because clearly the dukes were just kind of standing around. And actually now after I reviewed the code, I get why that is. They went away with it. So I was watching some of the E3 footage the other day, and the Colonel's men were originally in yellow, and it actually allowed you to very clearly see the faction type that they were. And so maybe what I'll do is because the Colonel's men are now using camouflage, and I do need to do kind of an overhaul on them as well and update more of that. But maybe the Dukes can actually end up with the more yellowish look as well, so that you're able to clearly differentiate who the Dukes are as well. Because right now, and all I was saying earlier is that they use the literal same models as the fodder, bandit fodder or whatever, and so because of that, it becomes a little confusing who is a duke and who is a bandit. So let's see here. We'll kind of run around for a little bit. Some guys. Whoever these guys are, they're definitely active. They definitely look more like the bandits. So they are doing better though because they didn't stop attacking the zombies to run straight for me just yet. They are actually going after the higher priority objects or the higher priority enemies. I think the difference is that they have not received a new target enemy because they're running towards me and then they're stopping. They are attacking. They're continuing to attack zombies. So they are behaving a lot better now. I mean, just the fact that they're down there. I saw a group of PK the other day that were wiping out an entire area, and that made me so happy because that's the first time that I've ever seen them clear a courtyard that was completely full of zombies. I'm also planning on going through and probably updating the zombies to where they'll drop less loot because we just had these four guys basically give us a entire lootable area. But they're pretty cool to watch. I'm very happy with the animations and everything. He's gonna come get me. So they are attacking. That works. All right, let's go find the next group. All right. So we confirmed bandits are working. We have some survivors being attacked by bandits. That's pretty fun. They're literally running away from these bandits. I know these are bandit fodder. Yeah, and they're attacking. So that's kind of fun. Gotta save the survivors from the attacking bandits there. And it just blows my mind because I keep switching back to like the regular vanilla game and watching the human AI, and I never imagined I could actually get these guys behaving like I have in the game. But I'm very very happy. Understand? Looks like the renegade bowmen are having some issues here. Okay, you finally woke up. Good morning. Aim time is much higher for some reason. Interesting. He's acting slightly weird. We'll just give it a second and watch him. See if he goes and attacks. Attacking me now. So for whatever reason, I guess he couldn't see me that close up, or because he's definitely attacking now. And I am going to upgrade these guys again to where they can change weapons. So currently they're only bows, but I'm going to bring. I had it set up for a little while. Look how fast these arrows are now. You can barely see them go by. Go away. He's still locked onto the player. To me, his health is low, but he's definitely hyper focusing the player. And of course, he died. So may need to look into the bowman a little bit. So renegade bowman for sure. Let's see if we can go find some renegades. I haven't visited this base since I've done the upgrade. I'm curious if they're, can't remember if it's, I don't think it's cleared either. I am curious now with all these new bases, how much they're gonna like try to climb down and actually attack the zombies. Find some renegades. You could just sell somebody over there. I'm gonna run up on some renegades and they're gonna absolutely slaughter me. Here's a group of survivors out in the wild. Make sure they all have weapons and attacking as expected. They're not. So they don't have weapons. None of them have weapons. Interesting. Yep. It's a dead guy. Alright, so whatever I've done has messed up the survivors because they did have weapons. So we may have to. It may have just been a typo there that was causing them not to attack, and I know these guys attack. So they're still set up to be the most deadly in the map. Guys still don't have weapons. Yes. Look at how big he is now. He's super creepy that large, but what's his deal? Mr. Charger. The AI in general right now is just really having a rough go. He's super creepy. larger. I really like this guy larger on the world. So chargers don't have weapons, or chargers are not attacking. So potentially there's a bug that I introduced with the weapons by adding it not in the difficulty, but actually. So maybe the chargers and everyone are not getting weapons as well here. Guys are too small. Some of these guys are massive. But it do be like that. I think I am probably going to increase the size of some of the zombies just because you end up with stuff like this. Or I guess that's about right for some body types, but just seeing a lot more super small zombies, especially compared to that. He looks like he's going to be a lot more deadly. He's behaving as a. So chargers need some love. The survivors need to have probably any changes undone here because they were working as expected previously. See if we can. Still looking for that group of renegades. I'm seeing the occasional one renegade, but let me see if I can find like a good group of them and just make sure that's working as expected. A voice. Kid zombies. It's fun. Probably also because I'm in this lower tier city, I probably should switch over to a larger city and then also make sure that these survivors end up with weapons again. And also figure out with the chargers what's going on with them. There's a single bowman again. Never encountered so many single bowmen. So hopefully that's not a glitch spawn. Usually get some here. Think the playground areas. I need to start looking at pie, I guess. Put somebody over here. This area usually has one group. So what I'm gonna do is still haven't found a group of renegade. It's crazy. I'm gonna switch over to a different save game. Um, in a later tier city so that we can start to see a little bit more dead. Let's re-upload this back in now that I've removed the changes to the survivors. Didn't even find a Duke group there. And I think one of the challenges is I don't think the Dukes are going to show up in that second tier city. So let's at least make sure our survivors are getting weapons now. So let's go to this reddest red one. And then also that reminds me of a couple of things that I was going to do yesterday anyway that I didn't get a chance to do. So currently the exploders have been limited by a lot, but there's still a good amount to reload in the flooded areas. So I want to go in here and say flooded. Say So first, I'm probably also going to go in here and decrease the amount of exploders after you complete the game because they drive me absolutely nuts. Don't actually like them. I'm going to try to look a little bit more into making them a little bit more interesting, I think, just because I really don't feel like I'm also going to remove the custom visuals I did for them. I don't actually think I like my custom visuals on there anymore, so I think I'm going to actually pull those off. So where am I located? Near the ship. So this is where I was testing last night. The PK base is actually pretty active now. It's actually pretty fun. And if you hit one of them, you can actually cause the whole ship to freak out and come try to murder you. Oh, nice. Right in front of the base. Actually, like one of the first female hazmats I've seen walking around in the day like that. Yay! Looks like she needs, looks like she needs her skeleton. Her skeleton's not doing her hair. So I'll have to review and see if they have a custom skeleton there. So let's go find some renegades. These bandits. Just one bandit. Bandit and a PK. Thing. They're doing together. Oof. Okay, make sure the PK don't attack me here. Beep. Feeling they're gonna die. Yeah, these are the new visuals for these guys that I added, and they're okay. They just basically look like a damn mess, and that's fine. I think my biggest thing is that I want to make them very identifiable as like these guys are going to blow up if I'm going to keep them to where they do blow up like that. Um, I think what I'll probably end up doing is making a swamp viral. group as well. Okay, so they got their weapons back, except him. So one group is not getting his weapons for whatever. Maybe that actually plays well for the survivors, but I think the bigger problem is finding out why he doesn't have one. Get when you push a little cart through the middle of a zombie infested city. Goat feast. Goat feast is not actually working. Let's see. There are no renegades. Strange. Bridge. So let's see what we got here. Also, not many people have mentioned it, but I actually really enjoyed just the sparse tall grass that I've added here, where it reminds me of always the Jurassic Park stay out of the tall grass kind of thing. Because if you run through there, you never know who's gonna grab you. So a single bowman again. Huh. Well, that actually might indicate a larger issue here. I hear a couple of people shouting, but do the cheating thing. I'm dead. All right, well, I may have to use one of my spawn systems here to figure out what's going on, but also very interesting that the renegades have kind of taken a hiatus from the map. I'm not sure if that's due to the encounter being glitched, but we definitely have the roaming survivors. Those are working. Oh no, those are that's a plague bearer. He calls Rick it is. Make sure he calls renegades. He should. No attacking. Like you know, weapons, they appear to be a little bit more passive than the other groups right now. These are the ones I found here, but they are definitely still attacking. And you can see here that turning down their spawn limits actually ends up you end up with a very small group, and then they will just basically keep laying on the horn, and things will get crazy really quick. But they are actively working on clearing the areas and fighting the zombies, which I love. Which more zombies are being brought in by these horns, but they are just filling up this area. Sorry if I haven't seen your comments yet. Just give me 1 second. I'm still trying to stay alive in this area with so many renegades filling it up. Hey, Seasman, thanks for joining on the YouTube channel. Yeah, they're going to continue to provide their updates and changes. I think everybody's kind of waiting for the next big thing. I'm pretty sure a difficulty mod is coming up. Probably Nightmare. A lot of the code is kind of changed on the back end. And so my guess is yes, that will be coming very shortly. See, I like this idea here that the renegades, I found a group of renegades, and they have turned that into an army of renegades that are continuing to just box in the player. And it gets worse and worse and worse. That's very specific to the renegades right now, and I think that one is a lot of fun because unless you wipe out those summoners, you can end up with more and more. Where was I? Okay, so it looks like the Chargers do have a bug on them right now. I'm really starting to enjoy the visuals and the different elements of the game. Combined with base building, I'm actually really getting hyped about playing this game through again, and I think it's going to be pretty fun next playthrough. Ooh, there's my chemical volatile. Turn down the cooldown for his spit. I actually upgrade that a little bit, make him a little worse. So I think his spit time is a little bit too slow in between. Want to make him a little bit more rapid fire there. Because he pretty much just turns into a spitter. Bad boys come out. I also like the fact that with the scale changes, you end up with these volatiles that are actually hidden in the crowd, and then you end up with ones that are just like massive and are very clearly more of a threat. That would make it really hardcore for Dying Light if you could cause them to drop loot. I like that idea. Um, okay, so here's what I was going to change earlier. So I'm going to actually drop the number of flooded exploders. I think I'm going to actually go even lower here because it basically gets to the point where you can't even really uh, play. You're basically just blowing up over and over again. So I think I'm going to go in here and make these like this. And so I think that's a lot better percentage there. And then as you go further in, maybe they get a little bit higher here. $60 is definitely too damn high for that area. Do like this. We get a very good mix there. And then while we're at it, so renegades are working. We didn't determine if the dukes are working, so I need to go back and find the dukes and make sure they're working. Um, Building tops probably. The volatiles, let's go in here and find my chemical volatile and let's boost him up a little bit. So let's start backing up some of these things. So let's focus on the player. I think that is working. I think that is working pretty well. And then minor fixes for human AI glitching. I do want to figure out still what's going on with that one survivor. So potentially one of these other survivors is being spawned in. Let's go and look here. So under these survivors, we have, if they're all being sent over to where they are receiving weapons from the difficulty tree. I think before I couldn't even figure out. So again, I have to figure out how their finders. Which one infected? Human generics. So my guess is that they're getting these generic weapons. Um, let's see where this is being called so I can understand a little bit more about how they set this up. And then for our chemical volatile, we'll go in here and say spit count. And we'll basically let's drop him down to like 8 and spit cooldown. It's going to be like 2. And then I need to actually go back to the base here and say and then let's boost up the range a little bit so that they do this at a higher distance. And then we'll also give them longer distance that they can do this. And then max angle. Oh, that's the wrong way. Max range. So the max range will go up to like 35 so they can actually spit a good ways at you. Put it enabled, spit count. And then for the venom, they're actually one as well, but theirs is going to be like spit range. Theirs is more specific to getting in close. So their minimum spit range is going to be like 15 as well, and their max spit range is going to be more like 25, and then their spit count is going to be like 3. Okay. say, say minor fixes for human AI glitching. Let's go ahead and push that out. Fixes for um, difficulty for chemical and venom variants. And then this one's going to be reduced exploders in swamp. More zombies. More swamp zombies. Okay, that should help with some of that. And then let's go ahead and say, let's switch back to the first city. And did anybody watching? No, there's only one of you guys online right now, so that probably won't work out. I need a save game that is in the air ducts. I really hate to have to play all the way back to the intro, but I guess that's what we're just gonna have to do again. Um, let me think here. Um, Start, you can do lockpick and medicine one. What if we went in and said, okay, there's a way to bypass it. Um, it's got to be default player setup. So say lockpick. Um, they're starting it out with the player can't do anything. Okay, well, I was hoping that there's some way that I could essentially cheat a little bit here at the start, um, so that I'm not having to run all the way through this thing. But I think by the time I figure out how to do that, it might be faster to just run through it. So I can run back through really quick. And then I'm going to back up a save game with that because I know that the chamomile picking and the renegade tutorial seem to be the constant one that has an issue. Before I do that, Let me go find one group of. Let me go confirm that the Dukes are working. So let's stick to the rooftops really quick. See if we can find one of the Duke. Oh, well, there goes my parkour abilities. All right, so there's one over there. Let's go check our lady here. Weapon.
Do you see?
Hard to believe that they call these, these are meant to be like little bases or whatever. No, I'm trying to get back to the one over there. It's pretty much guaranteed to have at least what I think are Dukes. Spawned on a rooftop, I guess. Or he came out of the interior. But he's also having this kind of. He's having the same issue that the Charger did, which is I think maybe their UV code is overriding their ability to attack. That was definitely an issue previously. And I think I'm going to pull the muddy variants back out because I think the muddy variants are actually going to be used here in an update coming shortly to do kind of like the swamp zombie approach. So I know that's a bandit. So far, none of the bases are up. uh, for the dudes. Come on. I think I wanted to. I know I can spawn them, but they were working when I spawned them. Now, that being said, let's just test it really quick. All right. So if we go in here and say, have actually, do I already have them? And then I think we're also gonna have to get some of the other ones, like the charger and all that in here as well, so that way we can start seeing what's going on with them. So these are technically the bandits, which would make sense that I tested these guys and they were working. It's the dukes. So if it was the dukes that are having the issue, then this won't do anything. Yeah. And then also to speed up this process, let's go do the play the volatile. Or actually I think the Banshee's a little faster to be honest. And let's grab some gear. It's a lot faster. Yeah, it's doable. Much better.
Get off me! What are you up to?
Weapon. Just go sow some chaos in the map. Look at that crouch speed.
They barely notice. But when the commander is killed, they turn the place upside down. I'm not gonna take your shit.
They all had weapons. Upset the base now. Base is able to respond, which is pretty great. Looks like some of these guys are still offline. Oh, so I can't attack them, but they can attack me. As soon as I get back to the actual development and less bug fixes, I'll be able to continue to refine some of these things. Let's see. So that one does not have humans, but this is where we were earlier, and that actually had the dukes. So let's head back over there. I should have thought of this a long time ago. This is now officially my little dev test kit. I'm gonna start using this always. That's a bandit. Maybe not. See, I thought they were dukes. Maybe not. Maybe they really are bandits. Okay. So previously we went this way, and that resulted in empty. Well, what the hell, man? I'm gonna have to just start running the street, to be honest. Nothing for it. I'm just gonna start running the streets. Bandits. Might be faster to just come up with a Duke spawner really quick. Bandits. Survivors.
You're gonna be sorry.
Yep. map real quick. Bandits. Intruder. Intruder to the map. You ever feel like you get caught up on the same pathways? Like, I feel like I just ran this way. Take a left. I did take this exact path. Well, if the bandits are working, and they clearly are, and they're now being used by the Dukes, then I'm going to go ahead and assume that they're working. The one thing that I'll need to test is whether or not their summon is working. But as long as they're not standing around, that's probably the biggest thing. And then for the testing the starts on, oh, here's another one. So is it really because they're like, so he showed up in a building. That's the problem. So he was in a building, and my old code to keep them in the building is no longer working. I think that's the issue. Is that he was in a zone, and he's now wandering the streets because that's been turned off. So for the charger needed. He has the switch that basically says randomly walk, but what it should say is search rooftops, distance. This should not fire here unless it's in a dark zone, which it's not, or it's the opposite of being in a dark zone. The reason for this, I think they got removed from. They were glitching, so they got removed from the things. But clearly, that is not. So their combat is not getting triggered because I've removed that as well. So you need to go in here and say AI behavior tree, charger, combat, and then basically say combat, combat, and all we have to do is say interrupt movement. So that is under. It's interesting that it's not here either because that actually should be for them. But let's say screamer combat. Set up for the screamer either. Maybe I pulled it out at one point, but I thought each one of these guys had back. Let's go to my files here. This one is searching I am Legion, so let's say interrupt. Movement and type. Move and interrupt movement. And then for our charger, we just need to combat and say that it can interrupt movement. Hey, Seidman, sorry, I've been kind of focused in on the bug testing here. This is still going longer than I expected, so I apologize. everybody has been talking about the sunken city. I'm pretty sure that either they're going to come up with a large scale environment to pull the buggies back in, and I'm not sure. Excuse me, I'm not sure how that feeds into the sunken city concept. But you know, I'm still kind of pessimistic when it comes to the DLC content. I do think that around here soon they're probably going to release an overhaul to the engine and all that good stuff like they did for the first game. I think that will help improve several of those things, but I'm not sure how far down the road that is. So let's see, add those back, and then for the volatile, um, this idle walk, all these things have been removed. So I have to go add them all back. I forget why I removed them, but basically we need to go in here and say art zone. Then it's probably going to be, let's just say sequence. We'll do a sequence. Addition. And then, so if they are, if it is not night and it is not in a dark zone, so this should be false. So it is daytime. So if it's daytime and it's in a dark zone, so it should be the opposite of these. It should be if it's daytime and they're not in is in the dark zone is so. I think I just messed that up again. So if it's is night, it's true, and if it is in a dark zone, is false, then they should walk. And then the same is going to happen for our charger as well. Um, hey, Bless, thanks for joining. I appreciate it. Thanks for the support. Look forward to some of the new things coming up. I'm trying to fix a lot of bugs right now, but once that's done, should have even more content coming here shortly. And we're actually going to say, I'm going to steal this and actually bring this back to the volatiles. Instead of it being a sequence, we're going to say the time limit thing. Like that. And then for the volatiles, we go in here, say general, and then say update. Probably need to go over here to our default, but for like general update, I added the X-ray effect back. Um, Now, are you saying about like brought the entire feature back as far as the X-ray goes? That was something that Techland added back in. It's been in the code since the launch of the game, but they turned it off. I'm not sure if it had to do with the visual effect, the skeleton effect that happens. I'm not sure why they did that, but they've now they've now brought it back in, and so I just added it back as an update yesterday with 1.2D1. There was a bug where it wasn't working, and so I thought you were referring to that potentially. Let's see. Um, Thanks, Bless. I appreciate it. I was just playing through, and a lot of this, I'm super excited to dive back in and start playing again. I've been super busy writing a lot of the code, and I'm really excited to get back in there too because it's getting more and more interesting. The more more I'm able to find, the more interesting I actually like the game. So I'm excited. Thank you so much for your support too. I appreciate that. So here is the concept of uh, a daytime volatile, which technically would be like the ultimate like run. And these guys are gonna be, if I did one of these, they're gonna be the mud covered. So they're gonna be the swamp covered and mud covered, and I guess ash ones as well. Um, and so let's go over here quickly, and not to just throw in a feature all of a sudden, but I've been wanting to do this for a minute. Same with the goons. I'm still haven't done them as well, but let's go in here and say volatile, and this one's going to be volatile, muddy, or actually let's mud covered, and then this one's going to be volatile, swamp, and both of these are going to have the concept of the daytime volatile underscore daytime that. So currently the first game is kind of, it's not offline as far as the mod goes, but I've been working on an overhaul that's taking a good amount of time that will be coming shortly for Dying Light 1, but it is not quite ready to launch yet and release. And so because of that, the current mod that's online is a very simple, kind of dumbed down version of the original mod, but it is definitely nothing compared to. It's nothing like Dying Light 2. I've been able to get a lot more done with Dying Light 2 than I have with the first one, and so just a heads up there that it's still a work in progress. So give them these very specific looks or appearances, which are found. I need to go back to my models here and say infected volatiles, and I need to go through and quickly determine body. So volatile 0, 1, 1. I think it was tag tracks. So it's 1 and 5. It's actually like that, yeah. Say 5. And then for the swamp, we don't actually currently have a swamp once. Let's go ahead and say swamp. here, let's go back and say infected, zombie, swamp, swamp. That's here, here. So that should now be our swamp volatile as well. And then if we go back to our file here, if we go back to affected AL, we can then say swamp. And then he's probably going to be more of the chemical version as well. Okay, so let's give this a shot. I'm still not super convinced that this is going to go well. But basically, what we're going to do is in the AI life, we're going to go over to the encounters and go to encounter settings. And then here, we're going to say volatile and go down to the patrolling volatile. And we're going to go in here and say infected patrol volatile daytime. I know, crazy. And then over here in AI, we have to create a new group. So we say scripts here, go down, this, daytime. And then this is going to have volatile, mud covered. I might change the name there just because that's going to be a pain in the ass to remember the name there. So what we might do here is say cute and all, but let's go in here and say day stalker. Let's call it a day stalker. All right, and so then we say tools volatile day stalker. And then this is then going to get added to the patrol. That is then going to get changed to, let's do starting at like 9 to these guys can come out anytime, 9 to 8. Why do they have them set up in here? I feel like there's a specific one that basically says anytime. And then there can only be one max instance with a cooldown of like 80, so they're a little bit more rare, but they can technically now happen. So then from here, we go to AI AI life, AI area settings. We say patrol volatile. Here. And it says daytime. Mm, for the quest, so I get why those would be turned off. Starting zone. Yep. So now we have the potential for some daytime volatiles that are going to be covered and coated in mud. For the swamp region, we're actually just going to go down to our flooded area. And in the city infected, we're going to go in here and say volatile swamp with a 1% chance, 2% chance to spawn. And then I did set him up to where he can spawn in the day, right? Daytime. Okay. So then I need to add these guys to my spawn test. So let's go over here to spawn volatile. And let's start changing a couple of these over. So chemical, venom, and then volatile swamp. Well, matter of fact, we can just discard this to where these are all going to be either swamp or daytime. So that way we can really test that out. And then to make these things more creepy, let's add that hiss effect to them. I really like that hiss effect. So let's try that. We go over here and say biters, I'm legion, and then swamp, scream overrides. Affected, swamp. Like, do like an undead volatile in the world, and we can find out how people hate it or if they like it. I'm sure people will have lots of feedback, but we're going to try that and just see what we get. And then also, damn, let's see for bandit spawner. Let's say grab some of these dukes and spawn in some dukes so that way we can test. And I'll actually save that as a default because they should be allies as well anyway. So we set this up to where are these guys? Yeah. Okay, there we go, dukes. So if we set these guys up, they should be friends with these guys anyway. So that way we can we'll do one duke. Then we'll do one summoner. I guess that's it. There's really only the. Let's do 3 of these. Back there. Yeah, let's do like a couple of those. And then this way I can actually just drop this sucker back in. And we can spawn the dukes into the world and also test them out while we're there. So let's go ahead and say. Alrighty. So this time it should be a little bit simpler instead of searching the whole map. Now, I mean that is the thing. If there's something in the world that's actually affecting them when they're spawning in, then there's not much that can be done there. It's interesting. This actually happened before, and then it resolved itself. It went away. But I guess it's like a read and write access issue with the GPU. Fix yourself. I'll execute you. Executed. Sure, nothing's else here. I know that stream is taking up a lot, but shouldn't be taking up that much. Let's try this again. While I've been working on this reshade, there's been the challenge of whatever you make with a reshade will be great in game, but then as soon as you go back to a main menu or anything like that, it can really mess things up. And so it's always fun trying to dial in a reshade to where it works on the game content and also works on the main menu. Everything has to be like depth based so that it doesn't actually end up messing up your interfaces as well, which can cause it to be a lot more love and time But the same thing was done for Dying Light 1 back in the day. I also did a reshade for that as well. And I also had a little installer at one point too. Okay, it's interesting. I guess I didn't check to see if I introduced a bug. Go in here and say documents. Oh, wow, look at that. Counter settings. Syntax error. Wow, that's probably the first time I've ever created a bug that's caused that many issues. Okay, so let's go back, and this one's going to be in encounter settings. So say counter settings line 7020. It's a fun one. I could see why it would be causing that because it's trying to spawn everything into the world, and it's hitting that loop over and over again. It's fun. Never actually had the graphic performance affected by that. Another great indicator. Yeah, so bless if you're still on the line. The original version, so you can actually go back on this YouTube channel back to 2016, 2015, when the mod first came out, and I was able to get the biters to a really like it took a long time, but I managed to get them to a point where they were super creepy in the game. They were basically crawling all over the buildings and searching the interiors and doing all sorts of stuff that was really intense. Like they were my favorite thing about the mod. Um, and later on, that became not as easy to get done because of the updates. When they updated the engine, it broke a lot of that. Let's go out here, do them in. Let's go grab another inhaler, unless I have one. Nah. Get that boost going again here. Save some time. I'll actually go ahead and grab. So, things to be testing. First, we need to head over to the swamp, but I guess before that, let me get my. See if I have the bandit. Yep. So, first, let's test to see if the bandits are working. Only 3 of them. Which I think that's a pretty good indicator why all those bandits weren't showing up. Is that I bet that they're freaking invisible. If I go out here and walk around a little bit, bet I'll find them. Banshee. All right, so the Dukes are glitched right now. So I need to fix the Dukes. They're out here somewhere. Um, gives me an idea though of how could potentially go and update the audio for the player. Okay, so that's one thing down. So we know that didn't work. So they need to be fixed. And then definitely going to need this for the volatiles. Let's go see if we can say some volatiles. Back over. Swamp volatile. Kind of doing their auto log. They didn't get their immediate thing here. So again, I think this is where the UV is being applied on the update. So they're going to need a custom update as well. All right, well, just nothing's working, huh? I like them though. Very creepy looking. Little leg. All right, so let's go back and let's update. We got a couple of updates here. So first, we need to figure out what's going on with the Dukes. The Dukes are clearly broken. Um, so what I'll do is first let's go back to the open world here. This is the default open world. Let's go find out what we got here. So first let's revert them back, which I guess is really just what I fixed earlier. Um, so they're using the generic one hand. Is that just correcting what I did earlier? Yeah. And then also getting rid of their custom loot. So potentially their custom loot is what broke them. I think so though. Let's revert them back really quick and then try to spawn them, see what's going on with them, and then see if we can improve them line by line to get them working as expected. So first, let's go in here. If anything, I could just piggyback them off the Renegades for now until we make them more interesting anyway. So let's also head back over um, to the AI for the volatiles. So if we go to the volatile here and then we go to the daytime, they're receiving the death UV as well. So we need to get rid of that. And then they're also going to have the init. So we need to go check on what's being applied to them when they start out. So say like general They won't use the death UV. They won't use escape sunlight. Their common update is probably also going to have the UV stuff. So we're going to have to say general, common update, and then say daytime, so that they're not doing the standard one, they're on a new one. So then we go here to the update, common update, and change this to daytime, common update. And then here, we're going to go ahead and pull off their UV information and then say push ally, flag, target, group, keep distance, chase update. So let's check a couple. Excuse me, sorry. Let's check here and say, there it is. That's what I've been looking for a while here. We're gonna get. I was searching for that the other day. We're getting rid of this chase handicap for now, and let's see what that does. Because I noticed the other day that some of them, only a certain number, try to actually come after you. The rest of them go scurrying up buildings and stuff. Let's remove that handicap and let's find out what happens there. So that's going to apply to everybody. So we had the update tactics as well, which that is going to be under combat. I thought it was under combat. Also the init. So we need to create a custom init as well, which I think fires through there, through here. So when you go into params, copy this over, call this daytime, and we're going to get rid of the concept of UV. So these guys are really going to suck. And more than likely, this is going to be a problem for bases. More than likely, this is going to be a big problem for bases. So we're going to actually probably make them away from light. We're probably going to make them based on. We're probably going to make them weaker because they're out in the sun, so that they're deadly, but then they're also able to be taken down, so that you could potentially lead them back to bases. I don't know if I'm. So it's also using the reaction one, I'm guessing. Yeah. So reaction is also going to need to be done. So say reactions. Reaction. Daytime. I think if we make these guys super rare, hopefully too many people won't be upset at me here for these daytime ones, but we're going to find out. Yep. Okay, there's rid of those. Say daytime. And while retreat needs to go away. Combat, stimulate, investigate, chase, search. I think that's all of them. That. Okay, so let's go ahead and launch, and we'll test our volatiles, and then we'll also test those dukes to see if they're fixed as well. And then I need to I need to add chargers to a spawn so I can test them. Six for chargers, walking, attacking. Assume that's still typing. Attacking. So one by one here, let's first say update tactics, volatile chase handicap, and off. And that's probably going to be something that's going to have to be set by difficulty. Well, first let's test that one. This is our daytime volatile approach here. Day stalker. Actually, let's pull renegades back and let's test. Let's test the different groups here. So first and foremost, let's do renegades, and then let's let the renegades get eaten by the custom volatiles, and just see how this goes. Renegades out here. Let's get some bandits out here. What's going up now? But see, this is the issue with the spawners. So they're not actually activated until you get close. Dukes are working. Renegades are working. It. Oh no. Oh no. I'm about to say that's not going to end well. Well, I just wasted my consumable. Okay, let's let them get eaten now. Hopefully this will work. And then let's go here. There it is. Attacking. Oh, there they go. Let's see if that one that woke up is actually attacking now. No, they're still not quite. There's like their senses are turned off or something. Yeah, they're still trying to get away. Maybe? Frankenstein comes alive. So the bandits are working again. Um, at least, you know, that one over there could have been the Duke. Hang on, let me say bandit. Make sure this is actually say each one of these. You're running away so far. Just kind of running away. Oh, I guess I'm gonna have to like actually set them up to where only dupes spawn because, as you can see with the bandits and everything, they so that's a duke right there. So let's say that he still may not be attacking. They're all kind of climbing upwards. The dukes themselves are getting like some basic like go climb a tree code. Um, so let's see if we go, and then also with the volatile combat, it looks like something is still setting these guys up to where they're only getting. Oh, I never changed the init code. I bet that's it. So say volatiles, params, daytime init. I bet that's it. Daytime. Because that one actually controls quite a few things. So, and then let's make sure under combat that they don't have any like only do combat if you're not actively being melted code here. It should just go straight to the offensive. So if it has a target, go to offensive. Offensive says anything here say UV? No. So it's offensive and keep distance. Keep distance says nothing UV related. So yeah, so as long as it's probably the init. So let's plan on testing that again. And then for the dukes, which we have clearly seen are not actually attacking. They're not doing that run up thing anymore. They're just not attacking. Let's actually say um, to use the same thing as the renegades, and then give them these very specific things. And then for the summoner, they can actually also use this. The only difference is that their weapon group will then have to be rewritten where they spawn bandits again. Because I'm pretty sure under difficulty they have like the actual Duke one-handed. That's it. And then what about under inventory, weapon presets, Duke, two-handed. So I guess I'm still confused about how they're getting their summoning tool. see, so guess let's just start here and see if this brings them back online. So get rid of this plague bearer thing. And then, so that should be testing volatiles, testing the AI. Let's see if this brings them back online. Probably gonna end up taking a break from this here in a second. Been going at this for a little bit now. Grab some lunch, and I do hate that I'm not able to get this one stupid bug. This is where I set out this morning to fix this, and still fighting it. Wasn't able to get to any of the new custom content. Story of Dying Light 2, as in the narrative. Bless, they currently have some very basic faction code in here. It's one of the more talked about things about the game, in the sense that it's not fully what everybody was hoping for, and so because of that, technically yes, there are some things, but I'm actually going through now and writing some more custom things to add to the list. Um, so, for example, now you have the ability of actually summoning reinforcements, PK reinforcements. So, if you're helping the PK out, you'll actually have the ability to summon them to come help you, um, that kind of thing, so that it gives you more incentive to actually set that up. Because otherwise, there's not enough there to make you really, besides it's really more about like what are the bonuses that I get because of my actions. So do I get, the crossbow, or do I get the crossbow, or do I get, you know these very specific things. Wake up. So one of the options in the init is required. That's clear. I think he is one of my favorite. He gives me a chance to actually go look at these guys. Okay. So no go on the volatiles. They're still broken. Let's see about the bandits. Again, I might have to actually take kicks. Definitely kicks. And then he runs away. Okay, he attacks. Interesting. Just in case he's not one of the guys, though. Okay, so at least what I can tell, they're all. Oh, are these the guys from the last time? Found the renegades from last testing session. Yeah, I do need to add back the healing factor for these guys. Oh no! Alright. There was the summoner. Let's see if I can get him to. He's pushing, but they're more like wary. Alright, so they're working. So now it's what's left is having to go all the way through the prologue and everything back to the tutorial to make sure that's working as expected. But I think we do actually have everybody behaving expected here. Okay, so if we can just get the volatiles working as well, then that's where I'm going to cap it. So let's go in here, keep that here, and then say params init. One of the things I pulled off of here is required. So let's say, I mean, technically the init is actually only setting the timers and everything for this data. And so the fact that this causes it is kind of strange, but so far I think this is probably the issue here. Enable sense UV. This is also one of those things where I need to update it to where he's not escaping sunlight, but yeah, so I might need to redo some of these. So say running away from the light, false. I need to add these values back, but then just true or false them. UV initial reaction. And then technically there's no reason that they can't have these, so it was probably a mistake to remove them. Um, we don't technically want to remove them as much as we want to make sure that they're not actually using these. So for example, UV immunity turns them all off. Let's see if we compare now between these two. Where'd it go? Say, compare one, compare this. So daytime, I mean to save time here. It's essentially, we're going to need to switch them back to init because I don't really see anything specific here that we'll want to remove other than the run and whatnot. I mean, and that's all fine. I think the bigger thing is that I can't remove as much of their code that clearly caused an issue. Um, so, like for example, prolonged UV behavior probably needs to come back in, and then the sunlight turned off. Escape from sunlight um, probably just needs to be turned off. Retreat. Bring some of these things back in. Death UV is turned off. Um, a random walk. Reaction light. Light hit. I think we also technically want to keep that because they're not able I mean, it is weird because I know before I was talking to some guys on here about this, and they were saying, escape from sunlight. I mean, it's literally the strongest thing, you know, um, if they're not escaping from sunlight, but they're escaping from a UV flashlight. That doesn't technically make any sense because the sun's going to be stronger than the UV light. And then prolonged UV behavior, I think, is probably the only other one where we say UV escape enabled. So instead of deleting this, we say daytime. And maybe the daytime just has like a UV escape enabled. Um, Basically, and then also while we're here, there's a couple of things I've been wanting to update here, anyways. So we got this. This one is essentially instead of running away from light, currently what they're doing is they set this flag and they just run all the way across the map and disappear. What I want them to do is actually um, step back and hang out until you leave, so that it's more creepy. So, like for example, we could use something like the banshee behavior to say go to a high point. So say like combat, go to high ground. So instead of them running away like weirdos, um, they basically go sit on a rooftop and watch the player um, until they're out. And this will basically have a timer delay on it to where after a couple of minutes, they'll maybe come back or they'll, still try to come towards the player. So I'll have to continue to play with that. But then also with like um, also with this combat behavior, they're currently doing this thing where they're trying to swipe you when you're inside the light. Um, Instead of doing just that, let's go in here and say taunt, and then on a cooldown, we'll do another little cooldown here of like seconds. We'll have them spit at you. So you can't just sit there and watch them attack. I know that there's another one in here. Let's say If you're sitting there in a thing and you're trying to loot all the fallen dead from a UV light, this will make it to where you have to. No, wait a second. Oh, I did the wrong one. I wanted to do this one. So this way, it requires you to actually get behind something, so you're not just watching them. So we'll set that up, and then for the daytime, we basically turned off the light source. Um, so on these guys, we now have the daytime is back. They have a daytime reaction. They have a common update, which that I feel like that's probably the one that's not working right is the daytime common update. Daytime common update. Just because here real quick. It's the general common update. Technically, all of these can remain. I think the biggest thing is that I need to figure out where they're receiving the information. I mean, all of these are fine. I think the problem is we need to say sunlight specific to them. So what I might do here is open up a new one in our mod, or actually it needs to go back to the main folder, volatiles, and then here we say sunlight, and then escape from sunlight, and then so that's turned off, and then the init. So as long as they're not firing this, it shouldn't need that. So let's give this a shot and see if that works a little bit better. And then I'm gonna go get something to eat, relax for a little bit. So let's see. Launch. And additionally, they may have something that they're adding from the generics. There may have been something specifically that they're adding on some of these values, some of these more generic ones. And I saw these a while back where they're using more and more like common values here. So if you see here, there's actually like there's the viral search, viral chase, viral go to last position. Um, because of that, the virals are also a group that have behavior associated with uh, not being able to work in the sunlight. And so I am curious if that might be causing some of the issue here. Say renegades. do some food. There's our food. Okay. Problem is their combat is still they're moving correctly, or they're jumping back. It's just they're not attacking, and they're still retreating for whatever reason. They need to be activated or something. Oh, that one woke up. They're doing the dodge. And for whatever reason, they've set up all these mattresses to be safe spots. So all the mattresses in the map are actually safety for some reason. And we also have this location, which is also considered safety for some reason. So they're still just trying to find their way back to safety. And this is actually the problem that I was seeing the other day with the chases as well, where they're trying to get to this location and it's not clear what's causing this code other than these viral ones. Um, so this like viral retreat is potentially the issue. So I'm sure if I go in here and look and say, okay, viral, and then combat, it's actually probably general retreat, retreat. That's get local get object position, chase target. Should retreat from chase. General retreat, and I'm not gonna let them do that. Chase target, move style. Destination. Let's have them chase the target instead. Okay. And then next one is going to be file daytime. Next one say go to forced, which that one I think it's probably a bigger one here. Request go to combat, chase, go to forced. Forced chase position, style use avoidance, on. Interesting. I don't think it's that. Volatile combat, AI investigate point of interest. Go to last position. And actually, I think volatiles actually have the best investigation, but maybe not. Let's just say viral chase. Sunlight escape time. That's what it is. So the viral chase is actually causing this, I think. And so we want to say, and maybe I shouldn't. This will be something that I probably want to fix for both. So let's say like viral chase update, chase in progress is player target, line of sight on player spotted in chase, group target, should check last target, any target noticed. Yeah. Okay. So I think probably the bigger problem here is that we actually have this chase combat. So we say chase, and we're going to say volatile chase. And regardless of sunlight, because that's the reason that they're freaking out right now. That's the reason the whole freaking stupid volatiles are messing up right now, is that some code is messing up and saying that it's sunlight. And so they're running back. So say move is owned by chase target, position. Okay. And so we'll go in here to here and we'll say volatile chase. And we'll do that for both. And then viral search. This is essentially the same thing as say sunlight, UV, no. That one should be fine. So I think the only one that's really on here that doesn't make any sense is probably the go to forced, which we'll remove because they're not going to have that set up. The viral retreat, we've now set that up to where that shouldn't be affected. What does BP stimulate? I actually need to Google this. Or not Google it. Need to look this up really quick to see. So this is just triggers. Okay, and then investigate. Auto chase. I'm gonna remove this for now. No, because they're working otherwise. And then let's check that one as well, just really quick. And then I'm going to test one more time. And then I'm out a little bit. All right, let's see. Reaction, light hit, dodge, hit reaction. Yeah, so that was definitely working. So let's go in here and say here. And I think I'm going to actually delete this as well, make sure it doesn't have any files that are sticking. set up. There we go. Let's test this, see if this works. And if not, then we'll hold off on the daytime volatiles. It's fine. Um, that's just something that I was hoping I could quickly add into the game. I know it's been something that's been requested previously, but we do have everybody else working. As far as I can tell, everybody seems to be working as expected. And so, next step is to continue in development if all of this. Now, the one thing I haven't done again is I haven't gone all the way back through the prologue, mainly because it's going to take a second to like actually play up to that point. So for whatever reason, is anybody actually seeing me? Yeah, so the daytime is still affecting these guys, even though all of their code, well, he just tried to attack. The problem is that the problem is whatever vanilla bug is causing this in general. So strange. As you can see, we do have our swamp volatiles, and still trying to figure out what is going on. So I'm going to step away from this for a little while, and I'll just end up coming back to this. Um, but they are still grouping up inappropriately and acting like they're trying to get away from the sunlight. So one of these um, is still causing them to freak out about the light, and so I'm gonna have to. I wonder if it's this. It's technically the update black all information. No. What is awake? Should check last target. Oh, should check last target position. That's interesting. Set to false. And then the last is the volatile emit. Very interesting. I wish I had been able to get that up and running before calling it, but I guess I'm gonna just have to come back to this and let's see. Update tactics, travel, update, viral chase update. That was normal. Volatile update tactics was normal. So it's got to be this UV reaction. It's got to be if they put out a global UV light, which I know they haven't because they're able to actually get in the bases now. And so there has to be some sunlight variable that's still happening. So if we go in here and say open folder, go to the mod, and then I am walking away from this, guys. I gotta go get some food, get away from this. If we say sunlight, escape from sunlight is still on these guys. Wait a second. Wait. He got copied back on there. Oh, all right. That should be it. There's no way. I have to test this really quick. There's no way that was it. I know it hasn't been on there long. I definitely added it back when I was trying to add some of these things back in there. So let's go in here and check. But yes, escape from sunlight would definitely cause that to happen. And then the other one was the init. So yeah, that should be it. Good old just searching the files just to double check. Fingers crossed. Why did it stop there? All right. Well, this is a final test thing how I have the engine running. If I switch to night and they all work, first I want to throw out regular volatiles to make sure they're not broken. And then let's switch to nighttime and just look at these guys really quickly and just see if they're also messing up at night because something I was messing with could have actually broken their logic within this. So let's try that. These guys should all be freaking out and going and trying to run indoors. So the volatiles are bugged right now in the daytime because they're no longer doing the retreat code. Oh, yeah. Spoke too soon. Okay. So they're retreating upward because I said retreat up. So they're in UV light, and their response now, instead of running away, is to run, which is good. I mean, that basically means that we could also say run into a dark zone. So we could tell them to get the nearest location of the dark zone and go to or to go into that dark zone and wait for the player. Um, so now let's try. Why do I get the feeling they definitely won't work? Counts works. I've seen that a couple of times. No, so they are actually messed up. So something I've done's actually broken their attack code in general. Not some re so their actual the volatile actual base logic got screwed up. Maybe with the changes to the chase. And then also I have accidentally removed. That's what I did. Is I removed escape from daylight on these guys. You can't rush these things. But it could also be potentially how they're getting spawned into the world versus being knitted otherwise. But I mean, that's not true because when I was building the custom ones, um, that was all how everything was being set up. So potentially it has something to do with their update. But yeah, I'm gonna go grab some lunch and think about it a little bit more, and come back to this at another time. All right, thanks guys for watching. There should be an update coming out very shortly that fixes the human AI. This volatile stuff's going to have to wait until more testing has been done. But as far as the human AI, all of that can get pushed out and be used. And so that will be coming here shortly. Thank you guys so much for watching and hanging out with me while I work through this. It's definitely something that, it takes a little bit of love and time to get this all set up. So I appreciate your guys' patience and also for the feedback that you guys give each time an update comes out. Thank you guys so much for the support of the mod. I appreciate it. And looking forward to updating here again very soon with some more interesting and fun content. All right, guys. Talk